the 79 coup, you were at GBC.
Yes.
Were you on duty? How did that happen?
The coup, it was a bit bloody.
Okay.
As we were fleeing, I saw some bodies of bodies of soldiers.
Wow.
Yeah, lying in front of the garage.
All right, so welcome, Kumar, to the ABC show.
Thank you, Harrison.
All
It's
right.
been a long time.
Yes, it's been ages. So I know you for radio, I know you for training, but who is Kumadra?
That's a big question for some of us who don't want to say so much about ourselves. But I'll try. I'll start from, I was working with GBC. I've been working with GBC for some time, over 30 years experience in radio with GBC.
Yeah.
And before then, I had trained as in Ghana Institute of Journalism as a journalist.
Okay.
And I got into Radio Ghana, GBC.
All right.
I didn't feel like working there, but I had to settle on that when we completed our training in 1976. There was no other job opening. Then media outlets were very few.
Okay.
So you asked me why I didn't want to work at GBC.
Yeah.
I worked with them when I was on practicals.
Okay.
I found the work so stressful, beating deadlines,
Okay.
waking up, running shifts, and all that. So I felt that was not the place for me.
Okay.
But what else could I do? That was the only place I had employment. They called me for interview. So I went there, and I was told I performed creditably. So I said, okay, if people find something in you, why not give it out to them?
Okay.
So I joined GBC. While on the job, I had opportunity to go to the university to read my first degree in sociology, political science, and history.
Sounds like University of Ghana.
At University of Ghana,
Okay.
Legon. After that, I went back and did my postgraduate in communication studies. And on the job, I think the training is rather on the job than
In the classroom.
in the classroom.
Yeah.
We train ourselves, and then I had a bit of travel. I went on a course in Paris called Journaliste en Europe. It's a foundation which you spend about 10 months in Europe, travel to so many countries,
Okay.
Russia, Germany, Holland, and other countries, Spain, and I had to come back to Spain.
Mm-hmm.
Every month you will be sent to any other country of your choice, depends on the subject.
Okay.
I was glad to leave the cold one of those winters
Okay.
and came back to a place called Algeciras, and then you cross the Mediterranean,
Mediterranean Sea.
Mediterranean, and come back to
Okay.
Morocco, a
Okay.
place where I don't know why it's still called
Africa,
Spain.
Spain.
Yeah, that has some political and colonial tendencies, and went to that place and did a story on the plight of refugees, the boat people who
Okay.
want to go to Europe, and did some stories there.
So even then, people were using unapproved means to go to Europe.
Oh, yes, and it's still happening. A week ago, I had some stories from Ceuta. Yeah, it's still happening.
Wow.
Yeah, the economic situation in our beloved continent is driving us down that lane.
That's true.
Yeah, and it's a long story, and then I came back to GBC, and then GBC, after my term, I have decided to. I'm basically from a rural community
Okay.
of Volta region in the South Dine district called Ajokwe Peki.
Okay.
So I was interested in regenerative and sustainability.
Okay.
So I formed a small NGO called Center for Sustainable Communities.
Okay.
The plan is to demonstrate using sustainable and regenerative ways to get something out of the soil
Okay.
to make life a bit better.
Right.
So that is an NGO
That is
which
running.
we are trying to form. Well, all these have been, opened in me, generated in me as a result of my work experience with Ghana community, where we work with farmers, and later on I worked with the farm radio as a consultant and a trainer in helping journalists to produce programs that are farm related and so forth.
Okay.
In doing all this, I had the opportunity to attend a training workshop in Senegal on empowering communities.
Okay.
Yeah. So briefly, that is Kumadra.
The 79 coup you were at GBC.
Yes.
Were you on duty? How did that happen?
There were shootings
Okay.
after a short period, after the takeover,
Okay.
and we felt that it wasn't a safe place for us. So when there was a lull around 8:30, we passed the other gate, not the main
That
gate,
was the main gate. Okay.
the canteen gate, and fled home.
Okay.
And this military music were monitoring me, was on and on and on with this repeated announcement the government has been. But not long, there was a counter, an activity to counter
The coup.
the coup.
That's a June
That
4th
was,
coup.
yeah, that was in that insurrection that the former general, Dati Wellington, was killed
Okay.
around the Nima police station.
Okay.
Yeah, and we didn't want to go back to announcements were going on that those on duty, they went for the duty roster, calling out our names.
Wow.
So my landlord called me, hey, I've heard your name on this. I don't want soldiers to invade my
My property.
so please go back to work.
Wow.
So we went back and we were doing our normal work, but the usual things were coming on. The coup, it was a bit bloody.
Okay.
As we were fleeing, I saw some bodies of soldiers,
Wow.
yeah, lying in front of the garage and so forth. So it was bloody. It shook some of us a bit. So, but the coup was eventful. Though short, very, very eventful.
Okay.
Very, very eventful.
So
yeah.
that was when Rawlings actually came into power and handed over to
After 3 months.
after 3 months.
Yeah, he handed over.
Okay.
But not long, he came back
Okay.
again.
Okay.
And it wasn't as smooth as that, but it was quick.
Okay. So you witnessed Rawlings take over, hand over to Liman, and you also
Yeah.
witnessed him take power
Yeah.
back from Liman.
Yeah.
How was the point when Rawlings came back to take power from Hila Liman?
Yeah, I was then in Kufudia when before the going to Kufudia, it was something unusual happened about these transfers. Normally, when one wants to transfer people, you call him and psych him and all that, but it didn't happen that way. We had one director, David Anaglate, may his soul rest in peace. He just one day wrote our names on the notice board, proceed on leave, and report to your station.
Wow.
After leave, but well, others resigned in that. I didn't. I took it and went to Koforia.
Okay.
That's when all these things were. So I didn't see much about the installation of the new president,
Okay.
Liman.
Okay.
But after a few, he couldn't finish his term, and Rawlings came back. And when this guy, Liman, was fleeing,
Okay.
leaving Accra, he was captured or stopped at a checkpoint in Koforia.
Okay.
So I covered that story as
Okay.
well. And then he came back, and those are some of the political stories.
Okay. That
Some
you've
of
covered,
them
that
that
you've covered.
I've covered. Yeah.
All right. I mean, having lived, seen all these things, and now we've moved into the Fourth Republic and we've handed over power. I mean, would I say successfully? So the NDC has been there 2 times, NPP is there 2 times. We have another election coming up. What is your view of the political landscape of Ghana so far, from the way we transitioned from the coups and where we are now, and then the media covering political activities?
Yeah.
Then you had just GBC. Now you have a lot more media houses, social media and all that. What has really changed?
Yeah, taking it from the multiplicity or the media landscape. GPC was really, really powerful. As I said, Professor Ansas talked about GBC.
Yeah.
Without capturing you have done nothing. But one way of diffusing power, how powerful this was to the landscape, the media landscape,
Okay.
has been changed by introducing this. It didn't come cheaply.
Okay.
This guy, Tazan, he was nicknamed Tazan.
Yeah.
I've forgotten the other name, but Tazan was broadcasting secretly
Okay.
from his private home
Okay.
until it was captured, and Toto Bikwashi named him as Tazan.
Okay.
The way he did, Tazan did his thing.
Okay.
It was a good way. It brings some freshness onto the landscape.
Okay.
We don't see things only with one eye, but we give different views. But I don't think GBC was doing too badly at that time.
Okay.
Without GBC, as Nkrumah set it up, liberation of Africa would not have been so easy, because Accra, Radio Ghana, was the nerve center of this, broadcasting programs from here, from our external service.
Okay.
It was great. But we have some minuses as well. Radio, as some of the old school people saw it, has been really watered down.
Okay.
There are certain practices which shouldn't be done. Radio, you don't just broadcast. Well, people think they must get stories which are without confirmation, and then you go with it. You know the president will be traveling. Yes, it's true at this time, but anything could happen. One time we had a story like that. The president had not gone. Other stations were saying he had gone. Our correspondent at the airport said, no, what people are saying is wrong. The president had not gone. The plane had not gone. So trying to scoop, trying to be ahead of everybody, but which is not factual, is not right. GBC also has its lapses. It was difficult for us to change our ways of doing things. Radio, as the British introduced it in 1935 cannot be always so. They were putting relay broadcasts here. They pick everything and put it across, we translate. Yeah. And then, when Nkrumah took over, it changed. We had to do local productions, and it is good. But I don't think we are doing much of that now.
Okay.
Local productions are not coming as it should. I'm not criticizing it, but if you go to our sound library, you see different types of stories, but different types of productions, which we don't see as at now. But thank God there's competition, and things are changing gradually.
All right. So you touch on the changes in the media landscape, and then you talk about how stories, and I think there are a lot more live programs than you would have pre-recorded programs. Yeah. Most radio stations now have, they're running live programs, just few feature programs, few pre-recorded programs are being run. Almost everybody is running live, you go in studio, and then what is a training you get at GBC that makes you different? Because for me, where I sit and with the little I've done with radio, if you see a GBC trained journalist, you see that. And I mean, for your age, you see someone who has worked with GBC in those days, you can easily tell the difference. Even now, even though GBC in itself is also changing and adapting to most of the new things that are coming, you still see how different GBC is from the other media houses. What brought that kind of environment, created that environment for?
Yeah, live programs are different from programs that are produced or recorded. It's not everything that can be live. We have live programs like outside broadcasts, stuff of things. Yeah. That's one. But there are others. If you really want to do something more, to go behind the scene and add more to it, it can be live. You must talk to different people at different stations. So we must know the difference between live programs and produced programs. Sorry to say, you can listen to a good radio station like BBC because things are well researched and not just people talking, live, because it's live, they are talking without much research. It's not well dealt with to add knowledge to whatever we are saying. So there are two sides to it. There are programs that should go live. That's fine. Yeah. Even live programs, it must be researched. You should know what to say on locations. The producers must be on top of that and produce you well, ask these sort of questions and so forth. So that's what I can say about that for now.
All right. But then, so the GBC, so you moved from GIJ to GBC. Do you undergo another batch of training?
Yeah. Well, when you get to GBC, we have called something radio training school.
Okay.
One has to go through that. And then, fortunately for me, I would say I've gone through various ways of training.
Okay.
When you get to, say, to the radio newsroom, I was working under Cyril Akolache, a disciplinarian, tough guy, workaholic. And, on the job is, training is on the job.
On the job training.
Apart from newsroom, in the newsroom even we have news desk and we have newsreel, people who really go on air. Formerly, there was that issue of there are news readers and then news writers.
Okay.
But during Anaglate's time, things changed. So he merged the two sections.
Okay.
So he introduced making the news more interesting by putting in actualities and features. It's not just dry writing, which I found very comfortable. I had the opportunity of traveling to France, working with Radio France, the English service of Radio France.
Okay.
And when I went, I saw how they were also doing their things, introducing in sound and all that, than what we were doing.
Okay.
So after my 3 months of stay, I asked for an extension. They call it prolongation, and then I had it, and I asked for writing features.
Okay.
So I met one man who was a part-time teacher, and I went through that. And there is one important section which is also a training ground on the job. We call it it's at Wager, where we had a monitoring section.
Okay.
Nkrumah is a great guy. Those days, he set up that place to monitor all major radio stations. And from there, Ghanaian programs are also broadcast during the liberation struggle time. So working there, you see how different stations cover maybe the same story. So it's a good training ground.
All right. Yeah. So with all this training you've been through, you've been to community, you've worked with community radio and all that, what would you say has been the impact of radio in general on the Ghanaian economy? I mean, from the Coup days where radio, Professor Ansah said, if you capture GBC, then you know that you've actually arrived.
Yeah.
What would you say has been the impact of radio in this? You can also relate this to how radio was used during the coup and amongst the different regimes that you witnessed.
Yeah, the coup could be just one, but it did more positive other things impacting on the lives of people. One is agricultural programs. Farmers Forum, they called it, where communities, farming communities, programs are centered around them and so forth. There was one program, another farmers program, which I was contributing to, though I'm not quite the farmers. It's whereby you could talk about farming activities in general. Okay. And it was at that point, I was then in Kufuria, I did some stories on, they called the winged bean, Sophocarpus tetranologus. It's a type of bean, which is a vegetable. People didn't know. When I published that story, I learned some technocrats from the castle went to the community and thought of promoting that beans. Well, that is aside for agric. Politically, it has its own ups and downs. In the sense that it's a government medium and the eyes are on it, but it depends on somebody as an individual. If you look at, nobody comes from castle or from the Flagstaffs breathing behind you, but you yourself, it's sometimes, I'm not saying it's not there, it happens, but sometimes you have to defend whatever you know. I had an experience, I was a shift leader, and I used a story about strike in Nigeria. My boss came one day, he called me to his office. Kuma, why have you used this story? I said, well, it's a story, it's just a normal story. No, this is not a normal story. When have we used this story? You also, what is happening in Nigeria to happen here? They think if you use a story like that, it's contagious. It could spread or spark off this thing. That is not so. And radio was more developmental. The fun was not there. There are other things, learning. There's a program like English, Everyday English. Those were programs, schools programs were on. But now attention seems to be only on politics, which I find very uncomfortable.
Okay.
There are other things that must be done. Yeah. We must use the media to improve upon development, so to speak.
I mean, ending on using the media to promote development, I totally agree with the work that we did with community radio, how we using these community radio stations to develop their own people, their own communities.
That's it.
Yeah, and you see that some stations are, even though it's a bit more political than it used to be, still driving that agenda for change, even now in the Ghanaian economy. But I'll ask that, having been a journalist and seen all these governments come to pass, what is your assessment of our governance structure so far? I mean, you were there before the coup, Rawlings being in power, handing over to Kufuor to Mills to Mahama, now Akufo-Addo. We are weeks away or months and days away from an election.
Well, I expect, maybe it's right or I'm right or wrong, I expected more. I thought we've come a long way. Things should have improved as we see it now. And I don't know whether we've forgotten too fast certain things. I thought, briefly I'll say, we are not doing much to build upon our development. Things with the problems we're having now, still having now. And maybe change of governments too have contributed to this. If things were more stable, we could have done better than we are doing now.
With your work so far, what has been the most rewarding part for you, having been on radio?
Most
rewarding part for you? I recall we were having a conversation before we came on. You mentioned that you broke the story of the killing of the generals after the coup. Yeah, but you've traveled, you've covered a lot of stories. Which one stands out for you? And what is most
I always don't like superlatives.
Okay.
The most and all that.
Yeah.
I don't like adjectives.
Okay.
It's difficult for me to point out one thing that I would say that is quite compelling, I will not forget. But one thing during the coup d'etat, which sank into me,
Okay.
but as somebody who is on the job, no matter what, you must act.
Okay.
One dawn during the revolution, the AFRC revolution days, we were on work at dawn, and then our correspondent, normally those working at the castle do not report for work before they are assigned. Sometimes there are due things to be done at dawn or anything, so they go from home. And our correspondent called he said he was calling from the shooting range on Teshi. And what was the story? And then some generals have been executed.
Wow.
My shift leader, I was the second in command. I took the story on telephone those days. That's how we were doing us.
Okay.
And I passed it on to her. She was devastated so much that she couldn't edit the story. She just tossed it on to me. Well, and it must go, breaking news and stuff like that. So I had to push this story, and well, after that, all the woman could do was to say thank you. But she was so devastated, a smoker, she lit to quieten her mood. There are other things that I did, but I don't like scheduled assignment, official things. With my training, I like doing things on my own.
Okay.
And there are stories I like. I did, which won me an award. Well, I won one award from on environmental grounds. How ships is titled "Ships and Fish and Ships."
Fish and ships.
Yeah, how foreign ships were coming into Ghanaian waters to exploit the resources,
Okay.
and Ghanaian fishermen themselves can get it. So recently I was listening to those stories. Oh, so this problem is still here with us. It's still here with us.
All right. Thank you. The work you've done so far, having moved from, you call yourself a rural man.
Yeah.
You grew up in a village.
I'm a roots man.
Yeah, roots man. You've been in Accra, well-traveled, done all these works. And then you're looking at somebody who's coming up, wants to go into journalism. Does it still carry the same weight it carried when you were pursuing journalism? Does journalism still carry the same flag, or things have changed?
Yeah, it does. And even things are easier in the sense that the way we were editing our stories are now different. Formerly, you had to take a physical tape and cut with scissors and put sellotape on it to join and edit. But now, digital editing has made things easy.
Yeah.
So is there. But for one to get into all this, the interest must be there, and know what you are about, and know there's a whole bigger vista there in front of you. And it's more competitive because there are citizen journalists, and you as a professional, you must prove your worth. So it's there. The opportunities are there. Okay. We have to feel them or use them.
All right. Yeah. So for your work again, you have an NGO that is into sustainability, sustainable living, sustainable agriculture.
Yeah.
And when you spoke, I could connect how everything you do now is connected to your growing up.
Yeah.
So your reading got into journalism, a bit of the farming that you were doing, because even while you were still waiting to become a journalist, you said you had an okra farm. So all these things that you did as a young man, you've grown, and you have your retirement, which is go and relax. You are putting that energy into something that you always had passion for, and you want to change the narrative. Would you say that most of the things that we do, and this is more personal, most of the things that we do as individuals and as humans, we are shaped or we form them and develop them at our early stage?
Yeah. Harrison, yes, it does. Our environment forms us. I grew from a farming village. I lived with my grandmother and grandfather. And those days in my community, the community was sustainable in the sense that they could produce their food and they could produce their cash crops. Okay. But at the period, those things were no more coming. The climate has changed. Our activities have impacted on that as well. But I remember one saying from my grandmother. I said, give more to the land for the land to give you more.
Okay.
It is aptly put in permaculture that protect the land so that the land protects you.
Okay.
Well, she never went and read it anywhere, but from practice, it's like that. And we had a big family. My father had a big family. When everybody is there, we are about 10. And he was just only a junior officer working as after the war. From the war, he became a medical assistant working, controlling cheche flies, working on bilharzia. So he was hopping over. But wherever he went, he had a small garden. At Takwa, where we were, we had a garden which could provide almost everything. We had chicken, ducks, dogs as pets, and cats, and all
pets
that.
to the dog.
And all we were self-sustaining.
Okay.
We produced our own eggs,
Okay.
and my mother was a good cook, and he taught us how to cook. We were quite dependent on whatever we had. We had farms even outside the garden.
Okay.
So I would say, though schooling and work has taken me, I have not forgotten these important roots. And nobody, if you want to live completely, you can forget about this. So this shaped my thinking. And after my retirement, I was going home. Occasionally, I saw that there was something going wrong with food production, and the land is the basis, or our practices are not good. This impacted, or this influenced my thinking that, okay, why not set up something like a training center where people can come and see that if you take care of the land, this will be the result. This has influenced me to set up. And I don't want to do this in the community, outside the community, and do something. So this is what I'm trying to do now.
You've been trainer, and I've watched you train young journalists with community radio stations on news, reporting, and all that. What would you say as a quality that a journalist should possess? Or are the qualities that a journalist should possess?
Well, I always want to stay away with, this is the gospel truth, this is that.
Yes, but some of the qualities that a journalist should possess.
Yeah. A journalist should be inquisitive. He should try to get facts, not rumors, or so forth. Follow truth is the best thing. And we like it or not, we have our personal likes and don'ts.
Okay.
But when you get there, forget about what you believe in. Those days, I don't want to show my... some of us believe in some other ways of governance or duties of political systems. As soon as you are working for the public, forget about that. They may show up, but try as much as possible to put them aside. And speed, that's also part of us when you get into this job. Speed and accuracy. Don't wait for the news or that. You chase it. And hard work. I always tell my people, when you are signed, they say, oh, I'm tired. I say, no, hard work doesn't break bones. You've got to be up and doing. And speed, I've said about that. I've talked about that. You may know it. you may know some of them. But I'm not the person who people said I'm brash. You must tell the truth and say it as it is, hard work. And then the news should be on time.
Okay.
Should
And
be
that's why it's
timely.
news. Yeah.
Yes, should be on time. So the news, I can bring it because I'm going. If you cover something, say a dinner, then you go home and sleep and come 9 o'clock and file your story. The story must be done there and then.
Okay.
I remember when I was in Kofodia, we were competing, Ghana News Agency and GBC.
Okay.
So when the GNA boss says, he asks, was Kumadra at that function? If it's at that function, we will make sure the reporter brings it, because otherwise I will send mine to Accra first before DS, which is a news agency should not do.
Okay.
So it was Kumadra on that assignment. It's on that assignment, then bring your copy before you go.
Because yours was going to go before.
Yeah, by all means. So speed is very important in this work as we do. And the competition now is greater. So nobody should play with speed, but get it right. Don't run and put off something which is not right.
All right. I would ask, what are your last words as we wrap up the conversation?
Yeah.
What would be your last words? You have anything that you want us to look into?
That's something you are putting me on the line. I always do that when I'm interviewing people, and that may give you a good thing, but I'm sorry to disappoint you that I don't have anything to say.
You don't have any last words.
Yeah, but I've been enjoying my work. I like the way of journalism, storytelling, and all that. And I will encourage people, if you want to do this thing, you must first try to be knowledgeable about it. Everything matters in this world. Know a little bit of that and that and that. You may not know it all. If you don't know it, ask for clarification. And now the world we're moving towards, this knowledge world and creativity and all are coming in. There's no this thing to stop. Well, this issue of AI, I was doubtful about it, but I tried it one day. I found how useful it is.
Okay.
We shouldn't stop. There's always something to learn each day.
Right.
But let's not keep to the cities. I'm going back to my roots.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we stay too much in our cities, in our comfort zones, let's remember that the rural areas are where we come from. I don't know if any Ghanaian doesn't have a rural area. Let's go back to our roots and help build the societies from there.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Uncle Kumar, as
Okay.
I've always called you. I mean, your last words, let's go back to our roots, because everybody comes from a rural area.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that...
Not just go in there, try to make things happen.
Right.
Try if we can. I'm not saying whatever they are doing there is not good.
Yeah.
Some are good, some can be improved upon.
Right.
It's very important we help them build our communities.
Right.
Thank you. There are several ways one can do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Uncle Kumar, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, enjoy your retirement and let me know your next moves. I'm sure I'll jump on your
All
train.
right. Thank you. Thank you very much.